Now, we woke again to alarmist claims about climate change today, coming again from the United Nations and broadcast breathlessly by much of the media, especially the ABC, of course. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I was down at the beach investigating. I wasn't really, of course, that was tongue-in-cheek, but it was beautiful down there because no matter what alarm they throw at us, we all know we haven't seen changes in the weather, that the Earth is still wonderful. We see the same beauty, the same changeability and the same hardship of droughts and floods, the same stuff we've always seen. That's not to say it won't change and isn't changing, of course. Climate's always changing, imperceptibly. And we should reduce our pollution as much as we can. But so many people are so keen all the time to drum up the fear, to pretend everything we see is unprecedented, even after yet another mild summer here. Look at last night's ABC weather report.
Jeremy, on Sunday, temperatures were as much as 15 degrees above average. Now, here's a handful of locations which either broke a record or registered their highest March maximum in at least 50 years. The standout was actually Dubbo. A top of 40 degrees was the highest for March since 1938.
I mean, really, even though they've already revised down the old maxima, yep, they've adjusted them downwards, the Bureau has, so that records are now easier to break. Even then, it was still hotter in 1938. What does that tell these climate alarmists? And have a look at this from news.com on the weekend. They've got Sydney setting a brand new weather record with temperatures soaring above 30 degrees on 4 consecutive days, breaking a record that stood for 165 years, apparently. They quoted the Weather Bureau, which was telling people this would happen, with Sydney set to top 30 on Sunday. Lots of other media ran this line too. The only trouble is, well, it just did not happen. Nowhere near it. The Bureau's own data shows that the temperature at the Observatory Hill station used for Sydney's records topped 36 on Thursday. It was a stinker. A warm 31 degrees on Friday, but then on Saturday, it didn't even get to 30. And all the hype about Sunday fell well short too, with a top in the high 20s. So not 4 hot days, not in Sydney itself, just 2 days over 30 and nowhere near a record, even though it was very hot in the west. Still, the media moves on. Shouldn't they follow it up? Anyway, then today, as I said, news bulletins led with the latest scare from the United Nations.
The rate of temperature rise in the last half century is the highest in 2,000 years. Concentrations of carbon dioxide are at their highest in at least 2 million years. The climate time bomb is ticking.
Yeah, you might get a sense of déjà vu listening to this stuff, wouldn't you? Some of the alarm might have sounded rather familiar. I mean, they've been trying to warn us, frighten us, create the fear of God for years, haven't they?
The predictions for Australia are alarming. Water problems will increase. The river flow of the Murray-Darling could fall by a quarter over the next 40 years. And the Great Barrier Reef could be dead in just a few decades.
The latest report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, says sea levels could rise a metre by the end of the century.
Well, here's what the head of the Climate Change Panel said on that. If the world doesn't do anything to mitigate the emissions of greenhouse gases, the very social stability of human systems could be at stake.
The headlines written about the report that was released by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Effects of climate change seen everywhere. Climate change is here now. The worst is yet to come. Little time left to turn down the world's heat.
A global climate chaos will require action on an unprecedented scale. That's according to a landmark report. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report says there's only a dozen years for global warming to be kept to a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius. To have at least a 50-50 chance of staying under that cap, the world must become carbon neutral.
And that is according to a devastating report by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which warns that many human-caused effects are now irreversible.
Code red for humanity. The UN sounds a dire warning about global warming.
Code red for humanity. The bombshell new report.
I've seen many scientific reports in my time, but nothing like this. This report reveals how people and the planet are getting clobbered by climate change.
Yeah, talk about crying wolf, hey? Ticking time bombs and all the rest of it. We need always to question this stuff. If you have any doubt about how governments and other authorities will use fear over facts, fear over rational thought in order to get people to do what they want, well, you only have to look at what happened to all of us during the pandemic.